Hey guys, it's Natalia and welcome back to another episode of Fashion Design 101. Today we're going to be talking all about the twin needle and how to hem a knit fabric. There's two different types of fabrics. There's knits and wovens. Wovens don't tend to have very much stretch. Knit fabrics do have stretch, and the difference is the way they're made. I'll put a little graph up here so you can see the difference between a woven and a knit. Because knits have a stretch to them, there's slightly different sewing techniques to use to make sure that the thread doesn't just pop off of it and that the seams don't get wavy and funky, because if you've ever just tried to do a normal stitch on a knit fabric, you might notice it gets a bit weird and never looks right. One of the best ways to hem a knit fabric is with a twin needle. If you've ever noticed on any of your t-shirts, sweatshirts, things of that sort, all of the hems have what seems like two stitches next to each other at the very bottom and also probably on the sleeves. I have this shirt that my friend wants hemmed, so I'm going to use this as an example to make a hem. This is not something I can do on my industrial Juki, so I will be using my home sewing machine. It's something that you can definitely do with your normal home sewing machine. I think the only requirement is that it needs to be able to have like a zigzag function of sorts, but otherwise I'll show you guys how to thread it, how to get it all set up. It's really simple and one of my favorite techniques, and I think it's something that just like really elevates a piece and makes it look a lot more professional, even though it's something so simple. So that being said, let's get straight to it. This is the shirt that we're going to be hemming today. My friend just wants it a little bit more cropped, so I do already have a pin in place of where she wants it to end. That being said, this hem, if you measure it, it is about an inch. So that means that when we measure from here to where she wants it, we're gonna add an extra inch for the hem. So that gives me about 6 inches. So I'm gonna mark that with some tailor's chalk. Make sure the shirt is laying perfectly flat and perfectly aligned at the hem before you cut, but I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this down. So now I can take out this little pin, and what we're gonna do is flip the shirt inside out. We're gonna pin the hem up 1 inch. So I'm gonna use my ruler to mark out 1 inch, and then I'm gonna pin it, and I'm gonna do that all the way around. Once you have it all pinned, we're gonna go ahead and iron this down so that we have a nice crisp edge to then sew on. I'm gonna go ahead and gently iron this down. If the pins get in the way, you can move them as well once you've ironed it down. So now I'm gonna take all these pins out, and we're gonna turn the shirt right side out again. And if you ironed everything properly, you should have a pretty solid line of where the hem is. I like to put the pins on this side now because we're gonna be sewing on the right side, and I find that the fabric lays flat the best if you put the pins in this way, because otherwise if you put the pin in like this, sometimes it like grabs the fabric and like folds it in a bit more. So I find it easiest to do it this way, and it's also easiest to pull out the pins this way than when you're sewing. But again, make sure that your fabric is laying nice and flat. Once everything is pinned, it's time to take this to the sewing machine. This is what a twin needle looks like. There's a few different sizes depending on how big you want the width to be between the two stitches. This is the one that I use. It looks like your standard needle, but there's just 2 of them. You're gonna want to unscrew the needle that's already in your machine, put that to the side, and we're gonna screw this one in. There is a right or wrong way to do this, and if you notice, there's a kind of like a flat side to this. So this is a bit rounded here, and it's flat over here. The flat side goes towards the back. You put it in this way, and then lock it in place. Okay, so for this, we're gonna be threading our machine like we normally do, but we're also gonna need a second spool of thread. I like to just fill up a bobbin with the same color thread that I need. Remember, this does show on the outside, so if you wanted a contrast color, you could add, you know, fun color here, but I'm just gonna use white so that it blends in with the shirt. So these are gonna be my 2 top threads, and then the bobbin will be the bottom thread as per usual. You're gonna thread your machine as usual with your first thread. I'm gonna pull it all through here. I'm gonna put this to the side, and then you're actually gonna thread your second thread in the exact same way. So quite literally also just the same path that you just did. And I'm gonna bring you closer to thread them in here. So the first thread you're gonna thread into this first needle, and the second thread is gonna go through this one. So again, you're basically threading like normal. There just happens to be 2 needles. I also don't have the presser foot on this just yet because it makes it easier for threading, just to not have it in the way. So we've got your first one, and now I'm gonna thread the second one. So you should have both threaded like this. I'm gonna clip my presser foot back in here, and then as usual, you're gonna take your 2 threads and put them through the middle of your presser foot. Your bobbin should be placed in here like normal, and like normal, I'm going to lower my needle so that I can pick up the bobbin thread, and I'm just gonna pull it out. So you should have 3 threads on the side of your machine. You're gonna wanna make sure that the length of your stitch is a bit bigger, so I like to do about like a 3.5, 4. I'm gonna do a 3.5 for today, but anything that's just a little bit bigger than your usual. I'm gonna place my hem here. I'm gonna line it up with what would be like the 7/8 line. Mine only goes up to 6/8, but you basically just want this needle, when it goes down, to be right where this is, which honestly this is a little bit see-through, so I can actually see it, but you're gonna want to find some sort of reference point to line it with. If you're doing less than 1 inch, it'll be easier, but essentially just want 1/8 less of what this measurement is. So if you're doing 1/2 inch, you'd want to do 3/8. If you're doing like 5/8 of an inch of a hem, then you would do 1/2 inch, so on and so forth. I'm gonna take out this little pin, and we're just gonna go ahead, make 1 stitch, like do a little back stitch, nothing crazy, and you just sew as normal. And you can see back here, we're already getting that double hem. I recommend going slowly because when you go too fast, sometimes the fabric down here gets a little bit bunched up. So take your time with it to make sure that it's nice and crisp. Once you reach the end, I'm gonna cut off the threads over here first, just to make everything a little bit cleaner, and then line it up. And again, I do like to do 1 little back stitch. You can cut off your threads, and you're done. I think the key to making anything look even more nice and more professional is to always iron it down when you're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and iron down this whole hem so everything is nice and clean. And you can already see there that looks so much nicer. This is what the finished hem should look like, basically exactly like the original. And on the back side, you'll notice that it creates a zigzag, which is why you need a machine that does create a zigzag stitch. So that is the finished twin needle hem. I feel like it adds an extra level of professionalism to your knit garments and just looks so clean and crisp, and it's one of the best ways to hem any sort of knit. This is obviously one of the many tutorials that I have in my Fashion Design 101 series. If you guys have any requests of things you want to see, let me know in the comments down below and I would be happy to make them. But otherwise, I will link the playlist of all my Fashion Design 101 tutorials so far, things from the very basics of sewing on like how to thread your machine, different types of fabrics, all that type of stuff, all the way to patterning your own things, measuring yourself, etc. So that being said, subscribe for more if you're not already so you don't miss out on the next one, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!